After the girl failed to win over the male lead, she switched her target to his brother, my childhood friend, Jake Thompson. She wanted to make the male lead regret losing her. When I threw my leftover breakfast into Jake's arms, she loudly scolded me, saying Jake wasn't my trash can. When Jake helped me get lunch and water, she seriously told him he wasn't my slave. Finally, she advised Jake to stay away from me, saying I didn't treat him like a human being. But she didn't know Jake suffered from severe attachment hunger. If I showed him even half a bit of coldness, he would lose his mind. When Lily returned to school, everyone was shocked. After all, that incident had caused quite a stir. Her family had almost sent her to a mental hospital. My desk mate shook her head. Lily's incredible. She can act like nothing happened and just come back to school. I glanced at Lily sitting in her seat. She happened to look this way, too. Our eyes met. She greeted me openly, with a smile in her eyes. I smiled back. My desk mate was surprised. Doesn't she ignore everyone except Ethan? What's up today? Why is she greeting you? Maybe she's in a good mood, I answered casually. Only I knew why Lily was acting so strange, cause only I could hear her talking to that thing. The cold, mechanical voice had just told Lily host Jake Thompson didn't come to school today. I suggest you build a good relationship with his childhood friend. Grace first, then make your move. I'm Grace. Why was it mentioning Jake guest formed, making my heart sink slightly? Quick, Ethan's coming. My desk mate suddenly jabbed me frantically with her elbow, excitement on her face. I looked up, saw Ethan walking past the window next to us. He stopped and handed me a box of milk and a bag of bread. Through the window. You didn't eat breakfast, Jake. Grace? His words were interrupted. Lily stood up, looking at me, completely ignoring Ethan, who was frowning at her. She asked, is Jake sick? He didn't come to school. He'll be here this afternoon, I answered evasively. Ethan clearly didn't want to stay longer. He stuffed the bread and milk into my hands. Jake asked me to buy these for you. Then he hurried back to his classroom. Lily glanced at Ethan and asked loudly, Jake's okay, right? He always seems mentally unstable. I answered politely, nothing serious, just a small cold. Then I lowered my head to read, preventing further questions. Fortunately, Lily didn't continue. She just sat in her seat, staring toward the next classroom, looking dazed. Everyone in the classroom was doing their own thing, but my desk mate seemed crazy. Blimey, Lily didn't even glance at Ethan. Just now, did the sun rise from the west today? She even asked you about Jake. I was previewing and slowly nodded. Is Lily giving up on Ethan to chase Jake? Instead, doesn't have any white moonlight. My desk mate glanced at me. Just a little childhood friend who bosses him around all the time. I shrugged. Jake and Lily called bad boy versus bright honor student. I'm pretty shippable. My desk mate had an ant-like smile. Since you're not interested in Jake, it's fine if I ship them, right? Jake doesn't deserve this. I shook my head inside. During the break, I was napping when I suddenly heard the familiar mechanical voice. Reminder to host attack. Target has appeared. I pulled awake. Just as I straightened up, I saw a hand with distinct knuckles organizing my desk. It was Jake. Weren't you coming this afternoon? Jake lowered his eyes, zipping up my pencil case, looking somewhat cold. Ethan bought you cold milk. He pulled out a new box from his pocket, speaking concisely. Warm. I took the milk and threw the cold one to him. Don't waste it. As I was opening the straw, I suddenly heard him repeat, quietly waste. His gaze lingered on the half-eaten bread, so I picked up the bread and handed it to him, instructing, don't eat it. This one's too sweet. Don't buy this brand next time. Jake looked at the name and nodded seriously. I was about to ask how he was feeling when a voice suddenly came from nearby. Grace, you're going too far. Lily stood up indignantly. Me? Question mark. Her Eyes were red looking, extremely angry. As if I'd done something heinous. What did I do? I was completely confused. Why are you throwing your leftover food to Jake? He's not your trash can. I looked at Jake. He was carefully reading the ingredient list on the bread package, completely oblivious to the argument. Here, does he look unwilling to you? I pointed at Jake. Lily seemed even angrier. She snatched the bread from Jake's hand and threw it in the trash. Jake, don't eat this. Jake frowned at her, but when he saw the bread thrown in the trash, his brow relaxed. Thank you. Jake thanked her, then said to me, I'll wait for you after school. Then he left. Jake was famously aloof at school except for me and Ethan. He barely spoke to anyone else, especially girls. This thank you seemed to greatly encourage Lily, but she didn't seem to know Jake. Hadn't been listening to her at all, and it was I who taught him that. Even if he didn't want to deal with classmates, she should have basic politeness. Lily looked at me with determination. Her eyes still red like a resilient little white flower. I won't let you keep bullying Jake like this. I was speechless. Are you sick? Jake didn't even say anything. Why are you so worked up? Jake is being manipulated by you. She glared at me, saying mockingly, don't think people don't know. You stick to Jake every day because of Ethan. The Wilson family is so rich. You're dying to climb up, aren't you? Although my family couldn't compare to the Wilsons, we were still well off. Did I need to use Jake to get close to Ethan? Besides, anyone with eyes could see that Jake was the one clinging to me, right? I looked her up and down. Lady, what's wrong with you? Just because you're that kind of person doesn't mean everyone else is like you. Then she cried, glared at me, and ran out, wiping her tears. Good grief. Can't handle it. During class, the teacher saw Lily's empty seat, hesitated several times, but finally said nothing. After all, Lily's reputation was well known throughout the entire city. She had dramatically chased Ethan Wilson, the Wilson family heir, for a whole year, being rejected countless times, but she still wouldn't give up, claiming Ethan would eventually be moved by her. She worked part-time too, buy him gifts, made lunch boxes for him daily, even applied to be a servant at the Wilson house for him. Ethan rejected her every time, throwing away her gifts and lunch boxes in front of her. Lily never got angry, just said with red eyes, if you don't like it, I'll try something different next time. Later, someone finally couldn't stand it and told Lily that Ethan actually had a white moonlight he loved for years who had already passed away. But good intentions led to bad results. At Ethan's birthday party, Lily disguised herself as a servant and crashed the event. She knelt in front of Ethan, crying and begging him. She said if Ethan didn't like her, she would die. Everyone thought it was absurd, but Lily still grabbed Ethan, pleading, whatever you liked about that girl, I can learn it, okay? I don't mind being her substitute. This completely crossed Ethan's line. He directly had security throw Lily out. The school wanted to expel Lily to avoid offending the Wilson family, but her parents knelt before Ethan, saying Lily had mental problems and begging him to forgive her. Lily hadn't been to school for half a month. By then, her parents were so persistent that Ethan had to agree. I thought Lily would take a leave of absence or be eliminated by the system, but after 2 months, she actually came back, and clearly she had changed targets. I watched from afar as Lily looked up, laughing and saying something to Jake, who was leaning against a birch tree, looking down at her. I was certain her attack target had switched to Jake. Getting closer, I heard Lily's cheerful voice. You like the yogurt from that shop too? I love it too. Then she mentioned seemingly casually, Grace doesn't seem to like it much. I saw her pour away the yogurt you gave her last time. You like the yogurt from that shop too? I love it too. Lily's voice was dripping with manufactured sweetness. Then she added, her tone dropping into a pitch of fake sympathy. Grace doesn't seem to like it much. Though, I saw her pour away the yogurt. You gave her last time. I stopped in my track standing just behind the thick trunk of a nearby oak tree. I had poured that yogurt away. It was peach flavored. I'm mildly allergic to peaches. Jake had bought it by mistake because he was running a fever that day and grabbed the wrong bottle from the convenience store fridge. I waited for Jake to get angry, or at least look disappointed, which was exactly what Lily was aiming for. Instead, Jake just stared down at her. His eyes, usually deep and unreadable, were flat, dead almost. I know, Jake said, his voice stripped of any emotion. I told her to pour it out. I bought the wrong flavor. Lily choked on her next breath. Oh. Still, she didn't have to throw it away right in front of you. That's so disrespectful to your feelings, Jake. Ding. The mechanical voice buzzed inside my head loud and grating. Warning. Target Jake Thompson. Mood is rapidly deteriorating. Affection level dropping. Current affection minus 20. Host, please cease negative reinforcement regarding Grace. I almost laughed out loud. Negative 20? She hadn't even started her campaign, and she was already in the red. Jake shifted his weight, pulling himself away from the birch tree. Disrespectful, he repeated. The words sounded foreign in his mouth. She drank a sip before realizing she got a rash on her neck. I'm the one who almost killed her. Throwing it away was a mercy. He didn't wait for her to respond. He simply turned around, and the moment his eyes landed on me standing near the oak tree, the chilling deadness in his gaze vanished. It was like watching a switch flip. His shoulders relaxed, his eyes softened, and he closed the distance between us in 3 long strides. He looked down at my hands. Your water bottle is empty. I was just on my way to fill it, I said, casually handing it to him. He took it without a second thought, his fingers brushing mine. Go back to the classroom. It's windy out here. I'll get it for you. Don't get the cold water, I instructed, turning around. My stomach hurts today. Got it. Lukewarm, he muttered, already heading toward the cafeteria's water dispenser. I glanced back at Lily. She was standing by the tree, her fists clenched at her sides, her face pale. She was staring at me with a mixture of disbelief and utter revulsion. System. I heard Lily's voice, not from her mouth, but echoing in my mind through her telepathic link. Is he brainwashed? Why is he acting like a servant? The novel's plot said he was an untouchable, rebellious lone wolf. Reply to host. Target suffers from severe psychological trauma leading to anxious attachment. He requires a dominant figure to validate his existence. Currently, Grace occupies this role. To capture the target, you must prove that Grace is unworthy of his devotion and position yourself as his true savior. I raised an eyebrow. So, that was her game plan. She wanted to play the holy savior rescuing the poor, abused boy from his wicked childhood. Friend, good luck with that. She clearly didn't understand what severe attachment hunger actually meant. Over the next week, Lily's tactics became aggressively overt. If I asked Jake to carry my books, Lily would magically appear in the hallway trying to snatch them from his hands, loudly proclaiming, Jake, you have a sprained wrist. How can she make you do this? His wrist was fine. He had bruised a knuckle punching a wall last month, and it was fully healed. If I told Jake I didn't want to eat the cafeteria's terribly meatloaf and gave him my trade, or return, Lily would buy a premium bento box and try to force it onto his desk, glaring at me as if I were starving. A Victorian orphan. The class rumor mill went into overdrive. My desk mate, normally a fan of my dynamic with Jake, started looking at me with concern. Grace, she whispered one Tuesday during math class, people are starting to talk. Lily's been crying in the girls' bathroom, saying you treat Jake like a dog and threaten to isolate him if he doesn't obey you. The girls for are planning to report you for bullying. Let them, I said, flipping a page in my textbook. Aren't you worried? She pressed. Jake hasn't said a word to defend you. He just ignores her. People think he's too scared of you to speak up. I glanced over at Jake. He was sitting 2 rows ahead, his posture rigid. He wasn't paying attention to the teacher. He was using a razor blade to meticulously shave the wood off a pencil, collecting the shavings into a neat little pile. He looked completely detached from reality. When the bell rang, Lily made her move. She walked up to Jake's desk and slammed her hands down. The whole class went silent. Jake, she said, her voice trembling with manufactured bravery, you don't have to live like this. You don't have to wait for her outside the school gates in the rain. You don't have to eat her leftovers. You are Ethan's brother. You are a person. Jake slowly stopped carving a pencil. He looked up at her, his eyes hollow. Lily reached out, trying to grab his hand. Come have lunch with me today. Let me show you what it feels like to be treated with respect. Ding! System prompt. Emotional manipulation initiated. Target's psychological defenses are currently being assessed. I sighed, closing my textbook. Jake, I called out. Jake flinched slightly. He pulled his hand away from Lily before she could touch him and immediately turned to look at me. I decided to test the waters. If Lily wanted to see him free, I'd give her a show. Go have lunch with her, I said, keeping my voice utterly flat, cold. The silence in the classroom became suffocating. Jake's pupils dilated. The pencil in his hand snapped in two. What? He whispered, his voice cracking. You heard me, I said, packing my bag without looking at him. Lily is right. I'm tired of having you follow me around anyway. Go eat with her. Don't wait for me after school. I threw my bag over my shoulder and walked out the back door, leaving the classroom in stunned silence. I didn't go to the cafeteria. I went up to the rooftop, bought a canned coffee from the vending machine, and sat by the wire fence. 10 minutes passed. Suddenly, the heavy metal door to the rooftop was kicked open with such force that the hinges screamed. Jake stood in the doorway. He was panting heavily, his chest heaving, his school tie loosened. His knuckles were bleeding. He scanned the rooftop frantically, like a starving animal, until his eyes locked onto me. He practically stumbled over, collapsing onto his knees right in front of me. Grace, he gasped, his fingers digging into the fabric of my skirt. He was trembling violently. Grace, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Whatever I did, I'm sorry. Don't. Tell me to go with her. Don't throw me away. I looked down at him. He was hyperventilating, his eyes wide with a terror so raw it was almost ugly. This was the attachment hunger. If I gave him an inch of distance, his entire psychological foundation crumbled. He didn't want freedom. The very concept of independence terrified him. He needed the leash. He needed to know I was holding it because it meant he belonged to someone. You're bleeding, I noted, looking at his knuckles. I broke a desk, he mumbled, his face burying into my knees. I panicked. I'm sorry. Please, punish me, Grace. Yell at me. Make me buy your lunch for a month. Just don't tell me to leave. I sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. The moment my fingers touched his scalp, his violent trembling began to subside. He leaned into my touch with a pathetic, desperate whine. I'm not throwing you away, I said softly. I was just proving a point. Don't ever prove that point again. A new voice interrupted. I looked up. Ethan Wilson was standing in the rooftop doorway, his hands shoved into his pockets, his expression grim. He walked over, looking down at his brother, who was still clinging to my legs like a lifeline. He destroyed Lily's lunchbox, Ethan said, his voice completely devoid of his usual cheerful arrogance. Threw it against the blackboard. Then he smashed a desk and bolted. Half the class is terrified Lily asked for it. I replied, pulling a tissue from my pocket to wipe the blood off Jake's hand. Jake didn't even look at Ethan. His eyes remained glued to my face, drinking in my presence. Ethan ran a hand down his face. Grace, I know you understand how broken my brother is. When our mom left us, she locked Jake in a closet for 2 days so he wouldn't follow her. He was 5. He thought he was discarded because he wasn't useful. Ethan's eyes darkened. He latched onto you because you gave him chores. You gave him a purpose. You made him useful. I know, Ethan. Then you know. Lily poking this bear is a disaster waiting to happen, Ethan warned. She thinks she's in some romantic drama. She doesn't realize that if she actually succeeds in prying him away from you, he won't fall in love with her. He'll lose his mind. I have no intention of letting her pry him away, I said. Simply, I pulled Jake up to his feet. He swayed slightly, pressing his shoulder against mine. Good, Ethan muttered, because my family already paid off the school board once for her psychotic stunts. I won't do it again. The incident in the classroom only fueled the rumors. Now, I wasn't just a bully. I was a witch who had brainwashed the wealthy, handsome Jake Thompson into being my attack dog. Lily, playing the ultimate victim, showed up the next day with a bandage on her arm, allegedly from when Jake threw the desk. I could hear her system panicking. Warning, time is running out. Host has 72 hours to establish a romantic node with target Jake Thompson or the soul binding. Sequence will fail. Penalty complete. Memory wipe and host obliteration. Lily was getting desperate. I could see it in the manic twitch of her eyes, the way she chewed her fingernails to the quick. She couldn't understand why her gentle, misunderstood heroin routine wasn't working. On Friday, it rained heavily. The sky was the color of bruised iron. Our school had an old, detached storage building behind the gymnasium that housed broken sports equipment and biology skeletons. Nobody ever went there. During the afternoon study hall, my desk mate handed me a folding note. A freshman gave this to me. Said it was from Mr. Harris. He wants you to go to the old gym storage to catalog some files. I stared at the note. Mr. Harris was the lazy PE teacher. He wouldn't care about cataloging files if his life depended on it. I looked across the room. Lily's seat was empty. I smirked. How cliche. Tell Jake I'll be back in 20 minutes, I told my desk mate. Standing up, I walked out of the main building into the pouring rain, holding an umbrella. The old storage building was dark, smelling of mold and old leather. I pushed the heavy wooden door open and stepped inside. Mr. Harris? I called out, feigning ignorance. Slam. The door behind me violently shut. I heard the distinctive click of a heavy padlock sliding into place. Grace. I turned around. Lily stepped out from behind a stack of gymnastics mats. She wasn't playing the crying, pitiful White Lotus anymore. Her face was twisted into an ugly, desperate sneer. Finally got you. Alone, she spat. Lily, are you trying to get expelled again? I asked, folding my wet umbrella. I don't care about expulsion, she screamed, her voice echoing in the dusty room. You ruined everything. First Ethan and now Jake. Why do they all revolve around you? You aren't even pretty. You're just a bossy, arrogant who uses people. I'm not using Jake. I'm keeping him grounded, I said calmly. And Ethan just has good taste. Shut up. Lily paced like a caged animal. The system says I'm going to die if I don't secure him. I have to be his savior. I raised an eyebrow. She had actually said the quiet part out loud. She was losing her grip on reality entirely. So what's the plan? I asked, leaning against a dusty vaulting horse. Lock me in here. To freeze? Go to Jake and tell him I went home without him? Do you really think he'll just cry on your shoulder? Lily smiled, a disturbing, frantic stretch of her lips. I'm going to tell him you told me you were sick of him. That you asked me to lock you in here so you wouldn't have to face him anymore. I'm going to tell him you hate his guts. And that I'm the only one who didn't give up on him. Host warning. This plan is highly volatile. Targets. Psychological profile indicates a 90% chance of extreme hostility. Shut up. Lily shrieked, though her mouth didn't move. She was screaming at the system in her head. I have the protagonist halo. If she's gone, the plot will auto correct to me. It has to. Lily, I said, dropping my casual demeanor. If you go to Jake right now and tell him I abandoned him, you won't survive the hour. Watch me, she sneered. She turned around, slipping out through small, ground-level ventilation window she had clearly forced open earlier. Before I could stop her, she slid through the gap, slammed the grate shut, and locked it from the outside. I was trapped. I looked at my watch. It was 3:45 p.m. School ended at 4 o'clock. Jake always waited for me at my locker. At 4:05, I walked over to the heavy wooden door and jiggled the handle. Solid iron. No way I was kicking that down. My phone had 0 bars of service. In this concrete box, I wasn't scared for myself. I was terrified of what Jake was about to do. From Jake's perspective, 4:05 p.m. Jake stood by. Locker 142. He held Grace's favorite brand of strawberry milk, warm, just the way she liked it on rainy days. 4:10 p.m. Grace hadn't shown up. Jake's thumb pressed into the cardboard of the milk carton, leaving a dent. His breathing hitched. A cold sweat began to prickle at the back of his neck. Did I do something wrong? Did she find out I broke the desk? Is she angry? Did she leave me? Jake turned his head. Slowly. Lily was standing at the end of the hallway. She looked disheveled. Her hair wet from the rain. Her eyes red as if she had been crying. The moment Jake saw her, a dark, primal hatred flared in his chest, but he suppressed it. Where was Grace? Lily walked up to him, hesitating. Jake, I need to tell you something. Please don't be mad. Jake stared right through her. Where is she? Grace. Lily sniffled, wiping away a tear. Grace left, Jake. She told me to tell you. The milk carton in Jake's hand ruptured. Warm, pink liquid spilled over his fingers, dripping onto the linoleum floor. She left, Jake repeated. The words felt like broken glass in his throat. Yes, Lily said, stepping closer, reaching out to gently touch his arm. She told me she couldn't handle you anymore. She said your clinginess was suffocating her. She asked me to tell you because she didn't even want to look at you. Jake looked down at Lily's hand on his arm. He didn't feel sadness. He didn't feel heartbreak. He felt a catastrophic, world-ending panic. The leash had been dropped. The void was opening to swallow him whole. Without Grace, he wasn't a person. He was nothing. But then he looked at Lily's eyes. There was fear there, yes, but beneath there was a sickening glimmer of triumph. Jake's mind, usually clouded by his desperate need for Grace, suddenly snapped into razor-sharp, terrifying clarity. Grace wouldn't use Lily as a messenger. Grace hated Lily. Grace didn't do cowardly things like run away. If Grace wanted to throw him away, she would look him dead in the eyes and tell him he was trash. That was why he worshipped her. She was absolute. You're lying, Jake whispered, his voice dropping an octave. Lily froze. What? No, Jeka, Isuya. She took her bags and left out the back gates. She told me. Before Lily could finish her sentence, Jake moved. His hand shot out, grabbing Lily by the throat. Lily let out a strangled gasp as Jake slammed her back against the metal lockers. The impact rattled down the entire hallway. Where is she? Jake asked. His voice wasn't angry. It was dead. The voice of a machine that had just been programmed to kill. Jake let go. Lily clawed at his hand, her face turning purple. Several students who were lingering in the hallway screamed. Ethan, who was coming up the stairs, froze. Jake, Ethan yelled, sprinting forward. Jake, stop. You'll kill her. Jake didn't even blink. He tightened his grip. You have 3 seconds to tell me where she is, or I will crush your windpipe. 1. Jake let her go. Ethan grabbed Jake's shoulder, trying to pry him off. It was like trying to move a marble statue. 2, Jake said. His eyes were entirely black, the pupils dilated. So far, they swallowed his irises. Host. Critical damage. Host is expiring. The system screamed in Lily's mind loud. Enough that even Jake seemed to notice. Her eyes rolling back to the old gym. Storage. Lily wheezed, tears of genuine, horrific agony streaming down her face. She's locked. Jake dropped her. Lily collapsed to the floor violently, coughing and gasping for air, clutching her bruised neck. Jake didn't spare her. A second glance, he turned and sprinted down the hallway, bursting through the school's front doors into the pouring rain. I had been sitting in the dark storage room for about 40 minutes. It was getting cold. I was contemplating using a rusty shot put ball to bash the padlock off the door when I heard it. Thud. Something heavy hit the outside of the door. Thud. Crack. The thick wood splintered. Someone was kicking the door with unbelievable force. Grace. It was Jake. He sounded feral. Jake, I'm here. Stand back. The door is thick. I didn't get to finish. With a final, deafening crash, the heavy iron hinges tore out of the rotting wood frame. The door slammed inward, kicking up a cloud of dust. Jake stood in the doorway, silhouetted by the gray light of the storm. He was drenched in rain. His chest heaved. His eyes frantically swept the dark room until they found me. He didn't say a word. He crossed the room in a blur, falling to his knees and wrapping his arms around my waist so tightly it knocked the wind out of me. He buried his face in my stomach, shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. Jake, hey, I said, putting my hands on his wet head. I'm okay. I'm fine. She said you left me. He sobbed, his voice completely broken, his fingers digging into my back. She said you were sick of me. Grace, please, please don't be sick of me. I'll do anything. I'll be quieter. I won't follow you so closely. Just don't leave. He was unraveling. The sheer terror of abandonment had stripped away every layer of his cold, aloof persona. He was just the traumatized 5-year-old boy, locked in a closet again. I knelt down, forcing him to look at me. His face was wet with rain and tears. Jake, look at me, I commanded firmly. He swallowed hard, his chest shuddering as he forced his eyes to meet mine. Did I tell you to leave? I asked. And no. Did I tell you I didn't want you? No. Then why did you listen to a word that idiot said? I grabbed his face in my hands, wiping the wet hair from his forehead. You are mine, Jake. You don't listen to anyone else. You don't take orders from anyone else. And I don't throw away what's mine. Do you understand? It was toxic. It was probably the unhealthiest thing I could have said to him from a psychological standpoint, but it was exactly what he needed to hear. The madness in his eyes receded, replaced by a profound, overwhelming relief. He leaned forward, resting his forehead against my shoulder, letting out a long, shuddering breath. Yours, he whispered, reverently. Only yours. Come on, I said, pulling him up. We're going back to the main building. We have trash to take out. When we walked back into the main building, the hallway was a scene of chaos. Lily was sitting on the floor, surrounded by a few fearful students and a very angry-looking Ethan. The moment she saw us approaching, she shrank back, a look of pure terror crossing her face. Jake kept his hand firmly wrapped around mine. The murderous aura had vanished, replaced by his usual cold, arrogant indifference. As long as he was touching me, he was invincible. I walked right up to Lily, Grace, Ethan started looking. Between me and Jake's bruised knuckles. Stand down, Ethan. I'm handling this, I said. I looked down at Lily. You, Lily, croaked, holding her throat. You're a monster, Grace. You've turned him into a psycho. He almost killed me. I laughed. It was a cold, harsh sound. Lily, you've spent the last 2 months trying to be the main character in a story that doesn't exist, I said, my voice echoing in the quiet hallway. You thought Jake was a poor, oppressed boy waiting for a gentle girl to rescue him, but you didn't bother to actually look at him. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she and the system could hear. You wanted to know why he acts like my servant? Because he wants to. Because to him, serving me is the only thing that proves he exists. You tried to take away his purpose, and you expected him to thank you for it? You're not a savior. Lily, you're just an idiot playing with a loaded gun. Critical failure. The mechanical voice suddenly boomed inside my head, echoing. In Lily's as well. Target affection. -100. Irreversible hostility. Established. Mission failed. Initiating. Host termination protocol. Lily's eyes widened in sheer, unadulterated horror. No, she whispered. No, system, wait. Give me another target. I can do it. I can make Ethan love me again. System. She began clawing at her own head, screaming at empty air. Don't leave me. Please. I don't want to die. She shrieked, thrashing on the floor. The other students backed away in horror, thinking she was having a psychotic break. I watched coldly as her eyes suddenly rolled to the back of her head. Her body went entirely limp, collapsing onto the linoleum floor. The mechanical voice chimed one last time. Host soul extracted, replacing with original consciousness. Signing off. Silence fell over the hallway, save for the sound of the rain against the windows. A few seconds later, Lily gasped. Her eyes snapped open. She looked around the hallway, blinking in utter confusion. She looked at her hands, at the school uniforms, at Ethan standing nearby. Where am I? She asked, her voice sounding completely different, weaker. Lost. Why am I on the floor? Ethan let out a heavy sigh, running a hand through his hair. Someone called a nurse. Her condition is back. The original Lily had returned. The host who had hijacked her body was gone, erased from existence. I looked up at Jake. He was staring at me, completely indifferent to the girl on the floor. Are you hungry? I asked him. He nodded slowly. You didn't eat your lunch today because of her. Let's go get burgers. You're paying. A small, genuine smile, a rarity that only I ever got to see, tugged at the corner of Jake's mouth. Okay, epilogue. The leash holds. It had been 6 months since Lily's breakdown. The real Lily had no memory of the past year. Her family, thoroughly exhausted and embarrassed, finally transferred her to a school in another state to get a fresh start. The rumors about me and Jake eventually died down, replaced by the next wave of high school gossip. We were sitting in my bedroom on a Saturday afternoon. I was sitting at my desk, typing up a college application essay, while Jake was sitting on the floor by my bed. He was meticulously organizing my bookshelf, arranging the novels by color and height. I paused my typing and spun my chair around to look at him. He had grown taller over the last few months. The dark, brooding aura around him was still there to outsiders, but here in my room, he just looked like a contented, oversized golden retriever. Jake, I said. He immediately stopped what he was doing and looked up, giving me his full attention. Yes, we're graduating soon, I said. I'm applying to universities on the East Coast. What are you going to do? Jake didn't even blink. I'm applying to the East Coast. What if you don't get into the same school? Then I'll buy an apartment near your campus and take classes at a community college, he said. Matter-of-factly, Ethan wants you to study business in London. Jake's expression darkened slightly. I don't care what Ethan wants. I go where you go. I leaned forward, resting my chin on my hand. Are you ever going to want a normal life, Jake? Are you ever going to want to date someone? Have a normal relationship where you aren't waiting on me hand and foot? He stood up smoothly, crossing the room until he was standing right in front of me. He knelt down, resting his arms on the armrests of my chair, effectively caging me in. His dark eyes were intense, holding a quiet, burning obsession that would have terrified any other girl. A normal life is empty, he said softly, his voice a low rumble. Before you, I was a ghost. You gave me a shape. You tell me what to do, what to eat, where to go, and in return, I am entirely, irrevocably yours. He reached out his long fingers, gently tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. You promised you'd never throw me away, Grace. You're stuck with me forever. I looked into his eyes. There was no system here. No mechanical voices, no forced plot lines, no fake white lotuses. Just me and the beautiful, broken boy who had anchored his entire soul to mine. I smiled, reaching out to grab him by the collar of his shirt, pulling him in close. I know, I whispered. Now go finish the bookshelf. You missed a spot on the top shelf. Jake smiled, that devastating, rare smile, and leaned in to press a soft, reverent kiss to the corner of my mouth. Yes, Grace,